So something that I want to kind of double click on, you said volume
Dictates pace.
But you said it, you kind of went over that. What do you mean by that? Just explain the principle of volume dictating pace.
Well, it comes from the performance paradigm, through that academic work on aerobic improvements and on the practice of it in a performance setting. We recognized, I know this sounds pretty simple to those who are in that area of academics or performance, but like the further you go out, your pace changes based upon the further you go out in time, right? So just take the idea that someone's gonna, quote unquote, go as fast as possible. It means nothing unless you say whatever the time is, time domain, right? So i.e., as the volume changes and as people do more and more and more and more, it will dictate exactly what pace you're going to be at. I'd like people to think about it as what's written about as the 20-mile march, or live a larger life, right? Working within your capabilities, but trying to get just a little bit further ahead of your capabilities every day, right? Every day. And what does little mean? That's a great question. Let's discuss it. And all of that is about slowing. It'll slow you down. Well, because when you think of 30,000 sessions, when people contemplate on it and think for a long while, besides just listening to me and being, it's just an old washed up CrossFitter who has an irk against the intensity model. No, it's more than that. It's more than that. It has to do with me truly wanting everyone to exercise for their whole life. And that's a lot of sessions. And if you think about it that way, it'll just pull stuff down. Make it seem a little less complex, a little less important.
Yep.
But much sweeter.
Yeah, when you said that, I've heard that a million times. But when you said that within the context of the 30,000 sessions, my brain was thinking like, yeah, you need to exercise every single day, but I'm also thinking about what else are you doing in life? And you said volume dictates pace, and it just hit a little bit different that time because I'm like, okay, because I didn't think about fitness. I was like, that's an everything, right? That's a good way to put it, where, there's other things that we could say, right? Like unsustainable practices lead to sustainable behaviors, sustainable practices lead to sustainable behaviors. But the volume dictating pace thing, it makes it very like touchable, right? Like fungible, right? Like it was just a different way of thinking about it. And it should be obvious, right? Like you talk to someone doing fitness and you're just like, hey, if I ask you to row for 20 minutes, you're self-governing what your pace is going to be over those 20 minutes. If you have no experience and you come out at 135, that's not going to be a good session for you if you can't actually hold 135 for 20 minutes. But someone that understands, it's 20 minutes. I know that, I row a 5K in about 19 something, so I'm going to hold about a 152 pace. They're like, the volume that you told them that they're doing is dictating that 152 pace that they're going over those 20 minutes. And if you look at anything else in life, you can also just like snag that principle out of there, right? If you're speaking with someone that's like, hey, I want to grow a very robust and successful business over the next 10 years. Yeah. You could say, hey, your volume is going to dictate your pace here. And that will actually resonate with what they do on a day-to-day basis, because what are they thinking about? They're thinking about linear growth over a period of 10 years. They're not thinking about, I need to just burn the freaking house down, build this thing as fast as I can, spend as much money over the next 12 months, and then we'll see what happens, right? They're thinking 10 years out. Yeah. Or if you're like, hey, I want to be the best father that I can be for the next at least 18 years, right? While, my kids are in my home. Now that father's like, okay, I'm thinking 18 years out. My volume's going to dictate my pace. How hard am I on my kid here in this instance versus that instance? What things do I think I need to teach my kid at this? So it's like the volume in which that child is in their household. They're like thinking about at what pace they're going at. And we could go back and forth and just like throw 100 more examples in there, but I think that's a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
And we've said it a lot of times, but I haven't heard it in that way. So I appreciate that.
I'm sure there's a lot of systems out there in life in which that doesn't apply. Because I'm always careful to tiptoe into like, well, if it means this in fitness, it's a carryover to life. But I do appreciate you seeing it, in that way. And it does I agree with you that there's probably is a number of systems.
Yeah. I would actually argue that it would actually play in every system.
Yeah. Well,
push back on you though.
I probably need
because
pause the video and spend some time coming up with.
Because the volume is the governor, right? Because you could say, hey, that doesn't really play in this area because sometimes you have to do things really quickly. Like you got to get things done. It's like, yeah, exactly. Your volume's going to dictate that pace. I need to get things done in 6 weeks. You're just banging your head against the wall, right? So,
well, we'll leave it in the comments.
Yeah.
We'll ask someone to come up with examples for me.
Quick story.
Examples of the case where in different systems in life, volume won't dictate pace.
Yes, I would love to know. Maybe I should pause the video and spend some time before being so resolute on this.
No.
I'm dying on this hill.
Hey, it's just for shenanigans. And
I had a back and forth with someone. This was like a week or two ago, and they were kind of like
online or in person.
It was online. Obviously,
you got to preface it now.
Yeah, all these.
Is it really a back and forth?
No one talks crap in person, man. Come on.
Well, you got to preface it.
Yeah.
That's why I asked you to preface it.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
Because it's not real.
Yeah. It's not.
I know.
But there was a back and forth on like this idea of, I won't get into the specifics, but there was a back and forth on this like idea of like, it's stupid to think about making things sustainable, right? It's like, if the goal is to drive adaptation, we need to make things as hard as possible over that period of time. And we're going to drive the greatest amount of adaptation. And inside of that, I agree to an extent.
Yeah.
I'm like,
both things are right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it depends on what the adaptation that you're looking to drive is, right?
Exactly. Do you want to adapt to unsustainable behaviors? Do you want to adapt to relying on your exercise session to make you think clearly? Mm-hmm. Do you want to rely on having to pay someone on Substack $6 a month to get new information? All depends on what you want to adapt to. Do you want to adapt to being a loser? Mm-hmm. Do you want to adapt to being vitriolic online and not knowing real relationships? Do you want to learn how to be really good at that? Then I think your idea is fantastic.
Yeah, great way to put it. The two things can be right at the same time. It just depends on what thing is right for you.
And I'd love to know that person's irk with sustainability. Mm-hmm. I mean, you and I didn't enter into that arena because of that, right? This could be an interesting experiment of where did sustainability come from in the culture, right? Because depend upon what you listen to, but with climate and sustainability, they go neck and neck. And now inside of that, because everything's political today, when someone hears sustainability, you never know. Like that person, when they hear sustainability, they're like, oh my gosh, like
this was
next thing he's going to come out with windmills.
Yeah, this was very specific to exercise.
But you never know.
In specific, like a 5-minute AMRAP.
Yeah.
But that's that's a good question on based on everything else that's happening in the world and in culture, how certain ideas are affected, even though when those ideas are technically removed from those things, nothing's completely removed, but when the ideas are removed from those things. That's really interesting. Because when I think of, when you mention that and you're like, why is there this connection to sustainability? And I thought about it in my own head for 5 seconds. I'm like, oh, there's a huge connection with me personally with sustainability, because I want to hold on to and maintain as much as I can. Mm-hmm. But there's some people that don't want to hold on to and maintain. They want to change. They want to progress. They want to move forward. They want to leave this thing behind, right? Mm-hmm. So there's some interesting, we could probably go down some rabbit holes there, but that is super interesting. Like, because I'm so connected to this idea of holding on to and sustaining, right? What you would call in fitness,
it's what binds you and I. It's what binds us on a lot of our ideas or thoughts or thinking and beliefs is on tradition and what's good about what has been in the past. And, Yeah. I pause on that because that it shouldn't be divisive, right? It is unfortunate,
Yep.
and you are right that it is, but it shouldn't be that way, because I'm not sure when the eloquent segue will be, but the Buskirk book discusses that, right? Of this divisiveness, but everyone's really a lot closer than what they,
Yep.
And there has to be this combination of people, to bring it back to fitness and what we're talking about, people recognizing that these principles are time tested, that we need to hang on to. And we just need to be, I think we need to be far more intelligent and caring with how we go about being empathetic to the progressive mind on what should change. I don't think that, I don't want to throw you in the camp. I don't think you have that kind of bone in your body, but.
The divisive bone?
No, not caring.
Oh.
Not having that caring aspect about, just being empathetic to the other side, or what they want on, let's call it hyper progression. Okay. Or hyper progressive thinking. Because there are some things in there that are sidled up next to it that did talk about in the book, right? Like innovation and creativity. So, we need to.
We just have to have guardrails, right?
Yeah.
But you said that you don't think I have a bone. I think we all have the bones in our bodies that are just like, we want to shun away different ideas. We want to, you know what I mean? But I think it's
the amount of bone you have in your body and to not care. I think is
or the brain.
I could be wrong, but you don't
or the
seem
brain,
like
or let's call it like the heart that overcomes those bones, right? Where we're just like, oh, we want to do this, but we know that it's not the right thing to do. So it's like there's like an intentional effort to say like, hey, I'm not going to shun you. I'm not going to hate you. I'm not going to think that you're just an absolute idiot. Sometimes people are absolute idiots, but not just like discounting people because of the things that they believe.